Imagine you have got everything you can possibly imagine. You're not short of anything. You love what you do, and you have made your dreams come true. You thought you had everything, only to find one day that you didn't. Something was missing. There was one missing piece, and that piece that you were looking for years was peace. You now look around and you embrace that feeling of freedom. I want you to imagine that you walk along the beach and your private jet is behind you. But you walk towards your freedom of happiness, joy, and being with the people you love.
First of all, let me say welcome to everyone on behalf of Afshin, CEO of Holiday Luxury. We are truly grateful that you would take the time to participate in this very important discussion on travel, especially as it pertains to the myths surrounding private jets and luxury travel. My name is Adela, and you are here because we just want to set the record straight on this sense of entitlement that only the rich should be able to have access to private jets, right? And if I can use the term a little loosely, that jet setting is only for millionaires and billionaires. That's not right. We say boo, right? Boo. That's right. So before we fly head on into this conversation, I would love it if you would unmute and briefly introduce yourself, the name of your company, and just tell us where you are. What part of the world are you in? You all know Afshin. He is the CEO of Holiday Luxury. He is based in the United Kingdom, and he specializes in high-end luxury travel for high earners, such as athletes and celebrities and CEOs. But he's also cracked the code to make travel affordable for everyone else. And as I said, my name is Adela. I am the CEO of the Speak and Grow Rich Academy. I retired from the Army as the first African-American female in field artillery history to earn the rank of first sergeant. And I reside in El Paso, Texas, when I am not traveling. And so next up is our foxy lady herself, Connie. Connie, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Cornelia Stark, also called Foxy Lady, and I am a coach and mentor, and I'm a hypnotist. And I eliminate limiting beliefs in people so they can grow and grow and grow and achieve more than they think they are capable of. And my company, I say company, my business, I always say company. My business is called Elevated Minds. And I do laser coaching, so I get to the root cause extremely quickly. So this is me, and I'm based in the UK. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you, Connie. And next up is Sawada. Introduce yourself, love.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Azza. This is the first time that actually I'm openly sharing about my business because it's the importance of self-discovery. So my business, it's my life. And it's the journey that it's never going to stop. So all what I'm starting is self-care and self-love. With those two things, doesn't matter where I am, how much money I make, who is around me. If I'm not practicing and living day by those two things, even private jets will not help me with that. So for now, I'm a very honored to be here in the call with you, with Afshin. Thank you for your invitation. And knowing that people are there who care, it's not just self-care, because it starts with me, self-care and self-love. So when I have that, I can give to others. So my business is my life. And my name means Sawada. It means happiness. So I choose to live by that, regardless of all that I went through. I'm from the country that doesn't exist anymore on a map, but it does exist in my heart.
Oh, I love it.
And I want to share with the world, because at that time, the life that I lived, it was like utopia. I learned in Marxism about utopia, and my mind tried to wrap around it. What really, like, how would that look? But now, 20 years later, I'm like, I lived that life.
Yes.
And this is something I want to share with the whole world. And with absolute certainty, I believe with all our strengths and weaknesses that we are going in that direction. And I want to play the small part of that and see it when I'm alive. So I don't want to follow that leader saying, hey, I'm going to do something, even, if I'm not going to live in that. Like, I want to change that.
Yes.
I want to change that. You can live in what you stand for.
Absolutely. And that's why we're here today as well, because we all want to contribute to this idea of a beautiful utopia in our own way. Starting with showing people how they can have choices in their lives. And that is what a private jet does for you. So we definitely have the right folks in the house. We are, we've all heard that saying that proximity is power, right? And so I think it's safe to say that we are in a space with some real powerhouses. So thank you guys for being here. You super, super women. So let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room, my loves. Can we do that?
Oh, yes.
So COVID-19 and travel. No doubt it influences how we make our travel plans. A lot of folks got stuck abroad, and people with concerns about commercial air travel, they turn to private jets to save them. So imagine you have access to a private jet. What would that kind of peace of mind mean for you in your business or just your lifestyle? How might access to travel, especially during a pandemic, how might that make you richer, or how might that just bring sanity to your world?
Thank you so much for that question. It's a brilliant question. And the reason why I'm saying it's brilliant, because it's not anymore for me about travel. Like I believed in that before, like seeing the world, the culture, the food. It's much more. And coaching and having clients from all the globe, what I realized actually that COVID, it's the gift. And this is why. The first time in human history, all borders are gone. And without borders, it's like there is the beauty. It's like, now how can I be part of that borderless world that always existed in my mind? So I'm really curious about private jets. Do they get affected by the policies, regulation? Like, what's different about it? Because nobody speaks about it. It's like that thing, like, oh wow, like a magic world, like a Disneyland, and there's no real information about it. So I'm really curious, like more on a specific aspect, like really how does it work? Like how to travel, how to go. And, like if you have the money, but like, hey, you cannot leave the country. What's the point?
So my love, I would say that I think there's a lot of information about it. It's just not reaching us because we're not in those circles, right? Or most people are not in those circles, right? But Afshin, he has the information. He has the information about how that flows and how that goes and the benefits, the pros and the cons, right? And so that is an excellent point, because that is something that Afshin is considering as he perfects his code to expanding private jetting to everyone else. And that's exactly why we're here now, right? To talk about this information. Why aren't we getting this information? Why shouldn't we get this information? And even more so, why aren't we demanding to get this information, right? We should be pissed off right now because there are some really, really great secrets out there, and we're going to tap into it. So thank you so much. Does anybody else have something they want to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add something to it. And I think, Sawada, you made a very good point that when the pandemic hit and there was no traveling going on, first of all, it kind of was, I think, a shock for everybody because you could not travel. And I know it from my own experience because I travel a lot, or I used to travel a lot, at least, 4 or 5 times a year, where I was, climbing up on a plane to travel. So, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hit, no traveling. And it showed us, and I fully agree with Sawada, that there were no borders. All of a sudden, we could connect with people across the pond, okay? And we didn't need to show a passport, okay? So we had the connection going, although it felt a little bit unreal to start with, but it just shows how we get conditioned over time and how quickly we can get used to something. And now it's very normal to sit in front of a computer screen and do shows or whatever, do meetings, have meetings, do therapy sessions in my case, coaching sessions. You don't actually need the people around you as such anymore. And yet, there's something I also would like to add to it. I still believe that being with people in company is still something special, and you cannot beat the screen, but it is making best use of both worlds, really, appreciating that we have the technology, but also appreciating when we can be together, and I think, as what I said, you cannot beat the heart, and connecting with people is connecting with people on a heart level.
Yes, thank you. And you're both right. It just proves how resilient we really are as a people. And I know that the pandemic, it crushed a lot of us in so many different ways. We lost people who are in our everyday, just jobs, the economy, right? But we cannot ignore the positivity, the good things that it also brought, right? And it just shows like, wow, look how resilient we are.
During the pandemic, I traveled twice. I traveled once to Germany, actually twice to Germany, and once to Dubai. And it was, the organization of it all was horrendous, with all the tests, with all the documents you needed. And but it also showed me, if you want something, you just do it. You just do it. If you want something, you just do it.
Yes. And see, that comes full circle as to why this conversation is so important, because we also, we talk about the resiliency, but let's talk about the other side of the coin. There are people who don't necessarily have community, didn't have access to their family, maybe they're countries away. And when COVID hit, with all of the restrictions and all of the shutdown, it caused them to have to go become a recluse, right? They were stuck in their house, no human touch, right? Thankfully, they could receive therapy and coaching via video chat. But if they had access to something like a jet, and they knew that it was affordable and it was well within their reach, it's like, wow, how might that affect their quality of life?
Exactly what you said. It's the real example of one of my clients, actually, that he got stuck for 2 years in another country when the COVID happened. So he couldn't see his wife and 2 children. So when he came back home, the children doesn't even know him anymore.
Wow.
And they're small children, so that growth, those 2 years, and not having a father at home.
Wow.
There is nothing that can replace that.
And I want to acknowledge Esther in the chat. Esther said, yes, that's me. I'm in the US And it's just her and her son, and all of her family are back in Kenya, in East Africa. And I can use a jet anytime to go and see them, or vice versa. Right. And she has the emoji with the tears on it. Thank you so much, Esther. I just want to say that that's a big part of the reason why, again, this conversation is so important, because it is about choice. And Afshin, I'm just so happy that you have decided to say, hey, listen, let's talk about this, because people are suffering unnecessarily, right? So let me ask you, when you think about private jets, my loves, who do you picture living that kind of life?
Normally, like the TV, the shows, the news, all around show celebrities, in actors, in music, in sports,
and millionaires.
Yes, millionaires.
Yeah.
So like it seems like it's not for a people like a middle class. Not even talk about Florida like that. It's like, hey, it's not reachable to masses. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. So. But why is only for billionaires and millionaires? Why only those people should use this kind of luxury lifestyles?
That's a good question. I would say it happens because we believe it. That only belongs to them.
Well, in relation to your question earlier on, so I would like to ask you a question. So what's the difference between a commercial flight and a private flight?
For me, commercial flight, it's something that somebody organizes and I have to follow all the rules. And a private jet would be something that it's like, hey, I want this. I say, okay, well, let's do it. You the boss.
The red
tape.
The red tape is the biggest difference.
Yeah. You made the point. So all the commercial flights should fly, based on a schedule. So we call it scheduled flights. So it means they can't just, pick up a date and time, say, hey, we're going to fly in that date, in that time. They have to be scheduled in advance. That's the big difference between commercial flight and private flight. With private flight, you can pick up the date. You can pick up tomorrow. You can say, this is the time I want to fly. You can be at the airport just an hour, half an hour, even sometimes 15 minutes. It just depends to the how busy is that private terminal.
That's a great news, actually. Like, I know it was your birthday, but it seems like you're giving it to me. So thank you so much for reaching out and for this lovely invitation.
It's a pleasure.
And I really appreciate that.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
And I just want to add to that I know you said that the people that we picture on the private planes are the celebrities, are the millionaires. And the interesting thing about that is they don't all have planes. They don't all have private planes, but yet they still know how to tap into that convenience, right? Mm-hmm. So yes. It just comes back to what Connie was saying. So, why are they the only ones that should be able to have that choice? And that is why, underneath it all, one of the reasons why we all strive for wealth is because it gives us choice, right? So let me ask you, in the lines of choice, how does the myth about flying on private jets, how do you think it handicaps the rest of the world to have that limited belief that only the rich are entitled to fly?
I think people also visualize that when you have a private jet, that you have to own it, firstly. And secondly, that you would be using it every day as a kind of transport, like a car. Now, this I don't think would happen. We just want the convenience of it. So if I said, I fancy, I don't know, going to Spain, and I can organize this within 2 hours, and 3 hours later, I'm in Spain. I think this is the kind of choice we're talking about. It's not that we want the private jet as a daily type of transport. It is having the convenience of it when we want it, because that is a choice. And when we have a choice, it makes us happier. Because, well, if you haven't got a car and you only have a bicycle, well, you can only use a bicycle. You know, if you haven't got a car but you have money and you can buy a train ticket, well, you have a choice between the bicycle and the train, and so it goes on. You see, but with the private jets, I think we truly just associate it with, like in my case, living in the UK with the royal family, you know, or extremely rich people, celebrities who have that kind of access and have the name, so to speak, you know. And yet, I think we all would like to have that choice and being able to say, actually, you know, in the next 5 hours, I'd like to go there. Is it possible? Is it available? You know, and I don't want to own a private jet, me personally, but yeah, I certainly would like the idea of, you know, setting off at a very short notice and ta-da, here I am.
Absolutely, you can come visit me.
Absolutely, you said perfectly fine. Do you have to schedule it? No. Does it make it you comfort? Of course it does. Do you have to go through the public terminal, through the security queues? No, of course not. Do you have a choice for picking up a date? Yes, you do. You have a choice for time? Yes, you can pick up any time. So all these comforts brings you flexibility, and everything is private.
That's right. And it is funny that you mentioned security, because when I was flying to Germany last week, now bearing in mind, I have been using plane as a transport like other people use a train for over 20 years, 25 years. And as I was going through security, I've never had the experience that they pulled my bag out to check what I had in my bag. Last week, they did it for the first time. And I thought, what's going on here? But also, so many other people, I'd never seen anything like it. And I thought, what's going on? You know, because I became so aware of it, because it had never ever happened to me. Not from the UK to Germany. The other way, yes. You know, sometimes, I don't know, you have something in your bag and there should have been in your suitcase. But it was really so obvious and apparent to me that I was standing in the queue and they were checking my hand luggage, you know, my handbag. That never ever happened. And it is what you've just said, not queuing, you know, to get on a public flight, so to speak.
This happened to me just 2 days ago. I was coming from Turkey, and on commercial, it was a work trip paid by the organizer. So the airline, I never had this experience before. So in Turkey, you have to do security twice, one before check-in and one after check-in. And when I did all these check-ins with the airline I was traveling, they had connection, so I was changing in Istanbul. And funny enough, I never had this experience before. I had to leave the terminal and come back to security again. I mean, I was with another colleague. I said, couldn't they just knock the wall off?
Yeah.
We could have just, just passed follow the sign for international connection. Let's just follow the sign and go. Why we should just leave the terminal and come back again? It was just, and the queue was absolutely, it took us about, I think, 45 minutes. And then we passed 2 securities, and just before, at the gate, another security, and they were just, random checks, picking up some people saying, open your bag, exactly what you just said.
It was really, even when I got to the airport, it is funny you've just mentioned it, there was so many people, the queue, or the queues, there wasn't just one queue, there was so many queues, it was absolutely packed. You had to wait for quite some time before you could actually put your stuff on the conveyor belt as such, And, well, if you had the privilege of a private jet, all you need is your little bag, whatever you need as a woman. Usually it's not a little bag, but yeah, it is. It would be a luxury. It's a choice, it's a choice, and a choice is luxury. Yeah.
So I have a question for you, ladies. So if there was another way to travel with the private jet, for business owners, coaches, mentors, influencers who had money, but not as much as billionaires and millionaires, just, mid-size business owner with maybe up to $10 million net worth. So how would they travel in private?
Absolutely. Yes. The freedom of choice, and especially unexpected things. Like I mentioned, I'm from the country that doesn't exist anymore. So I was a refugee. It wasn't just the choice of the travel, it was the choices where to live, what country, not speaking languages. So not having the status as the regular citizen. So everything, I couldn't even leave the country even if I want to. So I want the flexibility and the freedom when my family is in need, that I can just take off. That's most important. So I want to see this world, like I want to see the private jet, like an Uber or Lyft, you just call, and that convenience of it, instead of going through the old challenges. And if I may mention, actually, the same thing happened to me at Istanbul, 2016, flying back from my country, from Sarajevo. Layover was Istanbul. And the terminal, I got to the terminal and I got to the gate. But what had happened, I was praying to get to the gate, not to miss my plane. And there was a huge line. And I was like, excuse me. Like I'm like a direct girl. Like I know where I want to go. I'm going there. And like, excuse me. And then there's the halt. Nobody moves. And there's like the yellow ribbons, like FBI everywhere. I'm like, what's this? They say it's another security checkup on a gate. I'm like, what do you mean? How I'm gonna catch the flight? I have to go to my country, like to back home. And it was so nerve-wracking first. You don't know what's happening. I don't know if I'm gonna reach any, but even more devastating part in that, when I saw a woman that was pregnant and another with a small child, and because we're on by the gate, there's the bathroom right there. And she's like, the woman went underneath the yellow tape, and they told her, no, nobody can use and go anywhere until you go through the security. Yeah. I could not believe it. The pain of like a basic human rights, using a bathroom, it was not allowed until you get through the security check. I mean, where else would you go? You on the airport to go somewhere. You're not staying there. Like, are you going to hide in the bathroom, or like, what are you going to do?
Wow.
So it's very heartbreaking to see things like that.
Yes.
So
I have
it's not about just the travel. People confuse private jets. It's just the travel. It's the connections.
I have another story, real story to share. So last month I was going to Copenhagen, and I was on fast track. Fast track. What does fast track mean?
I'd like to know that myself, actually.
Well, fast track means you need to go on a fast lane and don't stay in a queue. And you got to pass the security fast. So that means fast track. So I stuck at the fast track for an hour. For an hour.
Wow.
That was fast track. So there was security officer was shouting, anyone who are flying at 12 p.m. So mine was 11:55. I said, I'm on 11:55. Can I also jump the queue? He said, it is not 12, is it? It's 11:55. I said, come on, it's only 5 minutes. I'm missing my flights. So it wasn't only me, 11 passengers. And he was like funny. And so by the time we were at the gate was closed. How could a pilot leave the plane? Leave the airport, not taking 11 passengers? I've been traveling with Emirates, for the last 22 years, and I do have experience with Emirates that they stopped. They didn't take off for one passenger.
I love them. Oh, I love flying with Emirates. Oh.
It was business class.
Yeah.
It was business class, but it doesn't really matter. So they care. But that airline didn't really care. I think there was something going on with the airport, because Manchester Airport is absolutely, their Terminal 1 is small and they can't really manage it. They can't control it, especially when there are too many flights at the same time. It just, it goes mad. And they have to pay for a lot of claims, because it wasn't only us who missed the flight. There was hundreds or maybe thousands, and they have to pay for the claims.
Now, when you mentioned that, Afshin, I mentioned international flights, but something that happens, my older son, he's 26 now, when he was in a college, it was for the parents a weekend to be there. And I was like, I'm going to take the flight. But the time that worked for me, it was not direct flight. It was with layover from Portland to San Francisco. If I ask you guys how long it took me to get from Portland to Los Angeles, it's usually 2 hours, one flight. So with layover, one stop, it wouldn't take much longer. Can you guess how long it took me to get there?
How long?
Probably 16 hours.
You got it. 16 hours. Even if I drove the car, I would get fast. I would get in it faster than with a plane. Yeah. And experience one plane took off, something was wrong, came back. Waiting for another one. We came in, boarded in. Guess what? Something was wrong, didn't even take off. Get out. 3 planes. Talking about 16 hours of my life that I was away from my child. There's no money that can, like, asking, like, what's the money? It's not about money. It's about that, because it's not the time that can be both back to any of us. It doesn't matter how much money, billions, trillions, Bitcoins, whatever we make up, nothing can bring the time that's gone.
So, that just brings it all home, what you guys are saying, because all of these stories amount to the fact that people need to know about private jet assets and access. And let me tell you what the real challenge is. The real challenge is not that, it's not a monetary challenge. I don't think it's about the money. I think that it's about mindset, because most people think about jets as something like it's a luxury thing, right? But I know that it's not a luxury. It can be, but my number one label for it is that it is an asset, right? When you think of it in terms of, is it luxury or is it an asset? And let me give you an example, right? We can even talk about the lag time, right? Of how we communicate from country to country. We'll come back to that maybe if we have time. But when I flew privately on a jet, I've flown a few times, and I tell you, it's hard to go back. It's hard to go back to commercial flying, because when I fly privately, I arrive to the airport with maybe 30 minutes to spare. I pull up right to the plane. My luggage is on the plane with me. And you cannot beat the quality of people. If it's a shared private jet, right? There's probably like 8 other people on it. You can't beat the quality of people. The networking power alone, asset, right? Asset. Then we go back to, let's talk about a poverty mindset. Poverty mindset, people who value their time and they're used to trading time for money. They say, well, listen, my job pays me $15 an hour, $21 an hour. You don't get that pissed off if you're at an airport for 6 hours when you only make $15 and $20 an hour. But if you consider your time to be more valuable, and I know we all do, right? I treat my time like an attorney's time. An attorney gets paid $200, $300, $800 an hour. That's how I look at my time, right? So when you value yourself like that and you treat your time like an attorney's time, you say, oh my God, I can't spend 6 hours at the airport. And heaven forbid you get bumped, you are pissed, right? So I really feel as though it is a mindset issue, is what I wanted to say, right? Because it's about your time. It's about your time. It's about the way that you think. It's about the quality of life you want. So it's not necessarily a luxury choice. If you use it right, it is absolutely an asset. And speaking of an asset, here's my next question for you guys. As business owners, how do you feel that having access to a private jet, if you had access to a private jet, how might you use that private jet creatively? I'll tell you right off the bat. One of the things that I absolutely have in the works, because I'm a trainer, is that I'm going to lock down a private jet, right? Probably with Afshin. And then I'm going to sell the seats. I'll lock it down for, I don't know, $20,000, however much it costs, right? And I will charge, 8 people, X amount of dollars. And I'll train you all the way to Paris or wherever we're going. You go have croissants, and then I'll train you all the way back. That is one creative way that I would use a private jet. What about you guys?
I would use my private jet with my clients in a way that I would put them in a lovely meditative state.
Ooh.
Yes, they would have a wonderful experience. I would create the most beautiful and vivid pictures in their minds, and they would feel that it is what once was a luxury is actually not a luxury, because as you rightly said, it is a mindset. And I can help my clients through the power of meditation and hypnosis even, to give them wonderful new suggestions, and they can come out with a new set of beliefs, and they can see themselves as they are actually their own asset,
Oh, I love it. Get high while you're high.
So
Hey, sign me up. I'm ready to sign up for that. Sign me up for that retreat right now. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're on. You're on.
What about you, happy? Sawada,
Yes,
what
that's quite
about you,
funny.
my
We
love?
both wanted to say at the same time. It's like, yes, I want to go with this. It's like, what's coming up for me is like the proximity, it's the power, but not just in a way of the physical presence, it's the vibrations and our frequencies. So being in that jet with people that are, it's the mind, it's set on the same, so the vibration in the frequency, they will align too. So the higher we are, the higher we get closer we to higher selves. And carrying, so the experience would be not just the travel to another country, coming back and having trainings. Those people would be different even coming to the destination and being different coming back home.
Exactly.
And something that's going to stick with them, because experience is the only teacher, and what you experience is nobody can take with you.
Yes.
No borders, no high or low. You know that. And those people are going to be then walking on earth with that vibration and frequencies that will touch the lives of other people.
Yeah. Sawada, you have just mentioned something important, memories. And we often believe that the memories we have, or that something valuable comes from stuff, objects. But the most valuable things we can actually have in life are our memories. And how many people can or think of negative memories straight away? We all can do that very easily. Very easily. We don't even need to try. But if I say to you, think of a positive experience, it actually takes a little bit longer for you to think of something positive, right? Now, if we create more positivity, okay, that means we will be in a more positive emotional state, which is in line with our frequency, okay? And when we go up in a private jet, for example, guess what? You can actually take that energy with you, and you can create this being in this positive emotional state, and creating those memories which you will never forget, and you can kind of recreate these memories time and time again. And I think this is the beauty of it. And eventually we all have to go from this world, sadly, but that is what we know. But wouldn't that be wonderful if you said, oh my goodness me, you know, I have experienced the most wonderful things in my life, you know, and it's not that I experienced an iPhone, it's not that I experienced a laptop. Yes, it's all good, but my personal memories I created with the people. Now, how beautiful is that?
Oh,
you know,
yes.
how beautiful.
If I may add just shortly.
Yes.
Thank you. The part of the work that I do is also energy. I am certified in how to clear the energy of the people, the places that I live. I'm very sensitive myself to their energies. It's like 1,000 times when I walk into the room, I can sense that. I didn't know that about myself. So 6-7 years, I discovered that. It was one of the gifts from another pain before. It was divorce. So I experienced war, refugee life, then divorce. That was most devastating. And then it took me in a different, I didn't know then who I am anymore, like who I am now. What's this coming? The healing powers in my hands. Like I didn't know what to do. My family was most important for me. So knowing that on my own experience, how that places have energy and people, let's say if there was a fight or argument in a room, and if I walk like 3-4 days later in that room that's empty now, I can sense and feel that energy. So by having the jets, I know many people, other people, coaches, that they have destinations for the events. So you fly, you go there, or travel however you want to go. And experience only happens in that place. in here, having experience in a plane, actually that residue of that energy, it will stay with it.
Yes.
So it's gonna be there for every future planes or any passenger, anybody that's gonna be, and it's just gonna be amplifying more and more.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And you can really see this at home as well. You know, your energy, your home is your energy.
Absolutely. Well, my loves, we are just about at time. So I'm going to ask you one final question. Okay. This is for the people. We're talking about the energy in the air, the energy at home. So how can we create this energy and normalize flying on private jets? How do you think we can make flying on jets so easy that the rest of the world just normalizes it? How can we do that? I tell you, one of the things I love is technology. You know, people are using apps like crazy, these very Amazon, one click away and you get everything in just a day, right? So what are some other things that we can do just for the rest of the world?
Many years ago, it reminds me of a story actually. Many years ago, a friend of mine, she got stopped at High Street in the town I live in, and they did a survey on mobile phones. Now, in those days, the mobile phones were like half a brick size, you know. So she was asked if she believed that, you know, mobile phones would actually, you know, be developed and that they would go somewhere. And she said, mobile phones, they will never, ever take off. No, I don't believe it.
Oh, no.
So a few years later, you know, she told me the story. And I started laughing because your question actually goes with, well, do we believe in smartphones? When the first smartphone came out, it was so expensive that I believed I could never, ever own an iPhone, for example, right? Now, a few years later, I owned an iPhone. Hello? What's going on?
Yeah.
We need to make it as a kind of normal thing. Like when the first iPhone came out, that was, oh, wow, you know, the first mobile phone, which was half a brick, you know, was, that's awesome. It will never take off. But then with development, okay, yes, it is possible. Yeah. So by developing this idea, you know, you actually will get somewhere.
You mean educating?
Education. And for me as an ex-teacher, I do believe education is the first step for everyone.
Oh, yes, I'm with you, my love.
Very much so.
Yes.
Yeah. I cannot expect people to understand if they do not understand the basics. Okay? This is how I see it. And people working with me, yes, they would also have to go through my education, because I would like to make sure that we sing from the same hymn sheet, you know, so that we speak the same language. And once you understand, you then can take it to the next level. And this is the process of learning. But people need to learn about it first. It's like, if I wanted to learn to speak Spanish, well, guess what? I would actually need to look up some Spanish words, you know, someone would need to tell me, or at least I would need an online course, something where I can hear how Spanish works, you know, how it's been pronounced, how to structure sentences. And this is the same with making this available and make it normal, a normality for people. And education is, as you said, you know, the first step.
Thank you. Thank you. What about you, Sawada? Any thoughts about it?
That's a great point, Connie. I agree with you 100% for education. And I would like to add on that. And I don't know if you recall, Adela, when you asked for one question, and I was smiling, and there was a story behind, like why people don't, the question why they don't know so much about private jet, like what's the reason? And I would say conditioning. And here's the story. There was a person coming also as an immigrant refugee, and it's a real story. And now it flew from one country, from Europe, and came to United States. The first stop was in Chicago. And that person saw a Coca-Cola stand, and it's standing there and waiting for Coca-Cola to come out. Pressing the buttons and pressing the buttons, but nothing was coming out. And people looking at like it's a crazy person, like, hey, there's no way you're gonna get something until you put the money in. And somebody approached that man, said, hey, you need money to put in to actually get something. He's like, no, you don't need the money. Yes, you do. Like, no, you don't. Like, what do you mean you don't? Like, how like, where is that coming from? It's sad and funny at the same time, the conditioning, how it works. Because every movie from the United States, from Hollywood, never shows people putting the dimes, very rarely, like 20 years ago. It doesn't show putting the money into the coin slot to get the cola. They just come, it's a pressed button, it comes out. So by watching the movies, that man get perception, that's how that world works. And now when he came, that perception, that was gone. So same with the Jets, yes, education, but how to educate people in a way that's entertaining, the way that's memorable, not in a way of the school system trying to memorize things, something to have a stories. Like before, we didn't even have books or anything, like telling the stories, images, because this is my fourth language. I call it homemade English. So I would just pick languages. In Germany, I was 4 days in Germany. I got a job as a waitress. I didn't speak German. So I picked up by living and never use a dictionary. Later on, I have 2 kids. I don't have time. So I would ask what the words mean, or I understand one word in the whole sentence. So I would just pick up and they say, oh, kids learn fast. Like, of course they do. Because there are books, but so there's big image, one word. Like, and I'm adult, guess what? I have to go to the bank, to go to the post, the grocery store, to gas stations, everywhere. Like, I need vocabulary for everything from the day one. And you say kids learn fast? I would learn fast if I had to go step by step. So having education in a way that we as a children learn the most images, because images are worth 1,000 words.
Absolutely.
Images are more powerful than any knowledge we have, really.
Yes. Because they stay with us. But this time I would love to see, and why I agreed for this invitation, because I feel the heart of Adela, of you, Afshin. I don't even know you guys, but I feel that the heart of connecting with everyone, that you're the part of everything. You don't see yourself separate. We all one. Doesn't matter how we look, how we speak, where we come from, where we're going, and reaching out and creating, even having your difficulties and obstacles, and still being willing to go into direction. That was the biggest reason I said yes to this event.
And I'm so glad that you did. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your contribution. And just thank you for showing up today. Afshin, do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for your time joining us here for the first episode of the big myth of traveling on private jets. Really appreciate that.
So you mean we're the first to get high? in a good way, in a good legal way, the best way. So thank you, everyone. And Afshin, thank you so much for allowing me to take the mic in your house, right? Truly grateful to have met all of you and to have felt your energy today. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Most people go by how many friends they have. What is friendship? How loosely do we use the word friendship? Quality over quantity. Creating meaningful relationships are far more memorable than any objects. Talking about memories and experiences create the real stories in life. Engaging with people, being curious about yourself and showing interest in people, that is the real luxury in life. Things, objects can be taken away from you. Memories stay with you forever. No matter what you possess, the real possessions are the relationships you have with yourself and others.